All right, y'all. Welcome back to another stream. This is GVS, where I cover all things sports. And today we're going to do a little bit of a different show. Today we're going to get into preview and predictions. I did one of these a couple days ago when I talked about Dallas was playing a game. I think it was Dallas against the Jets, Game 6. We kind of did a preview reaction to all the slated games that day. We talked a little bit about the UFL. We talked about the Baltimore manager getting fired for the O's. That's what this stream is going to be. This is going to be a prediction preview, kind of like, hey, we got two games today. Let's talk about it. Our two biggest games out of today, we have a game in the West for the NBA Western Conference Finals. Game 2 between the Timberwolves and the Thunder. And then in the East Conference Final for the NHL, we got Game 2 of the Hurricanes versus the Panthers. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, yap a little bit for maybe good 10, 15 minutes, just depending on that. And then we'll talk about other stuff like college football, because there's some big news coming out about that. We'll talk about other big news in the world of the ESPN and stuff, because here in about, an hour, the game is officially going to start and kick off. The T-Wolves Thunder one starts at 5:30, and then the other one starts at 5 o'clock. So that's how we'll roll into this stuff, and then we'll probably do a reaction after the game, so be sure to hit that like button so you know where to come back to. Right now, as we lean into the West Finals, Game 2, Oklahoma City leads the series 1-0. Now, how did we end last game? Well, last game, the Thunder's defense shut down just about everything, and they whooped up on the Timberwolves. That final was 114-88. There was a third quarter explosion where the Thunder outscored the T-Wolves 32-18. Let's not forget that, and let's not ignore that, because I think that's going to have to do a little bit with how tonight goes as well. Julius Randle also had a big game. He had 28 points. SGA, he had 31. Edwards, let me see the box score. Let's see how many points Edwards had. 18. Edwards has got to show up tonight. Like, if the T-Wolves want to make this thing interesting, 1-1 going back to Minnesota, or at least lose with a little bit of dignity, he's got to have more than 18 points. It's got to be Julius Randle who has 18, but then Edwards who has 28. Like, those stats got to flip. And then also bench players need to do a little bit more. Because who had... DiVincenzo, Reed, and Alexander Walker combined for 17, 16, 21 points. Bench had 21 points, so we'll see how that goes. But right now, I'm sitting with how just the second half the Thunder took over and how successful the Thunder are at home. Their record at home is 35-6. I'm going to lean towards the Thunder winning tonight. I really do think that they can take a 2-0 series lead. Let me see some game casts here. I would say they're favored. Because, ESPN predictor, 71.2% favorites. Okay, yeah, in the matchup predictor where they do the little circle, they are favored in that. Season leaders, Edwards averages 27. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averages 32. So Edwards needs to have a 27 to 32 point performance in that range. I think Gobert needs to have a big game too, because it's going to take everybody. I don't think for Minnesota, with just how not underwhelming, what's the word? Underdog? How much of an underdog they are in this series. You can't have Gobert, you can't have Randall, you can't have DiVincenzo taking a back seat, because, if Shai Gilgeous shows up and only drops 18 points, dude, you got Chet, you got both Williamses, you got Dort, like Hartenstein even. Like, there will be someone else that will step up and have a big game for the Thunder. So you can't have just, sorry, Anthony Edwards, your 40-point performance was not enough because Dante DiVincenzo only made 2 for 8 from the 3-point range. So other guys have got to step up. But with just tonight, how the Thunder have taken huge momentum of this lead. Again, I'm not going to overreact. I'm only going to start to overreact once this series is 3-0. I think the Thunder make this thing 2-0. I really do. Now, do I think Edwards is going to have a hell of a game? Yes. I think, after putting up 18, wouldn't you want to turn around and then torch the Thunder defense and drop 30 plus? So I have a feeling he's going to have a big game. I do think this game's going to be a lot closer. Like, I think the Thunder jumped on him. And I think the Timberwolves had a little bit of the yips and stuff. I don't remember how the T-Wolves did against Dallas in that series, and I don't remember if they lost game one off the top of my head. I could go look, which in fact, let's go look. Let's just look just in case. So let's go to schedule. 23-24 postseason. So they beat Phoenix. They swept Phoenix. They were down 3-2 to the Nuggets, but then they won the final two, and they came back and beat Denver in Game 7. Like, Denver was up in that game. Oh, they went down 0-3. Okay. That answers that. Okay. So they went down 0-3 to Dallas, and Dallas basically had their 1 foot in, 1 foot out of, okay, we're probably going to sweep you boys. Okay. So, again, Minnesota, let's see if they can not rewrite the books, but history's not on their side. When we look at recent history books will say, hey, guess what? They went down 3-0 against Dallas. So let's see if they can, rewrite those, by going 1-1 back to Minnesota. I don't know. We'll just have to see. So there's that. Okay, now let's switch over to the NHL. Our game tonight. In the Eastern Conference Final, Game 2, Florida leads this series 1-0. They also jumped on the Hurricanes early. Hurricanes had a little bit of the, oh man, why am I tired? I should be tired, sorry. Hurricanes also got a little bit of the yips. Panthers jumped on them 5-2. This thing was 3-1 by the end of the second. Plus, Verhaeghe opened up the scoring. Ekblad had a goal. Sebastian Aho made it 2-1. Greer made it 3-1 in the second period. But then when Bennett and Luostarinen also scored, it just extended the lead. 3-1, you can manage a 3-1 game. We've seen it in the postseason, and we've seen it in these playoffs where 3-1's nothing. Nothing to, worry about. Nothing to go, ooh, okay, let's start overreacting. I think 3-1's not too bad because you get one goal, you make this 3-2, you swing all momentum back your way. But 4-1, 5-1, and then Blake had a power play goal to make it 5-2. But Panthers took game 1, 5-2. I think this game, definitely when you look at the stars of the game and saves, Sergei Bobrovsky had a 93 save percentage. He stopped 31 shots. Carolina, they got to find a way to get past Bobrovsky. It's that simple. They found a way to get past Anderson. Florida did a number on him. They dropped his save percentage down to 80% or something. It was just a bad night in the office. And then considering when you have 20 shots and 5 of them go in, it's just a bad day at the office. So I think I do think Anderson's going to bounce back. Do I think he can pitch a shutout tonight? I wouldn't say no. Just considering how successful he has been in this postseason. But let's just look at the bigger picture here. I think if you beat Florida, it's going to have to be grimy. It's going to have to be a real gritty game. And I'd lean towards Carolina, yes, evening the series up at 1 apiece. But this game maybe goes to overtime. Overtime or a late last second empty netter. Final 3 minutes of the game where Carolina takes the lead, but then puts a little bit of the finishing touches with an empty netter. But I would lean towards maybe 4-2, 3-2. I'd lean towards one of those because I don't think Anderson is going to pitch a shutout. So the Panthers are going to score some goals. They're probably going to score 2 goals. We've seen their record and how many goals they have scored in the last 3 playoff road games. It's 17 and they have outscored their opponents 17 goals to 4. So, like, I do think, they gave one up to the Leafs in Game 5, one to the Leafs in Game 7, and then in Game 1, they gave up 2. So, 4 goals total. So, I think, Bobrovsky will give up... No. Anderson will give up some goals, maybe 2 or 3. But if they're going to win, like, you got to catch Bob on a bad night. But yeah, I'll lean towards the Panthers dropping this one. Let me see. Let's go to... I want to see who's favored in this one. Let's go to the Gamecast. Show me the circle. Where's the circle? Let's look at the little circle thing. Looks like Carolina. Yep. Looks like Carolina has a better chance of coming back. And I think, whoa, pardon me. And I think rightfully so. And then we'll also see a lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people have been joking that we're probably going to have a line brawl right there at the beginning of the game, considering the just misconducts that happened at the end of Game 1 with Brad Marchand and, little extra antics. And so we might see a couple fights. And it would feed into that, yes, this is why I think this game will be close. This game will be gritty and potentially low scoring, is it will be like there will be extra hard checks into the boards. There will be just an extra tippy tap here and there where, yeah, every single time the whistle blows, sticks might be up in the air and we might just have a little scuffle where everybody's grabbing somebody else. Just because I think with just how Marchand... Now, Gostisbehere did what he did. Like, dude, he shot it from his own blue line. He shot it purposely at Marchand, and then Marchand went after him. But, like, I think Panthers are going to have something to say about it. The Hurricanes are going to have something to say about it. So, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if this one's a little chippy, low scoring. Love to see that. Or, I mean, if we have kind of like a West type game where, holy shit, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Panthers 6-3, 6-4. Like, it would be out of the realm, and I don't think it would happen with how well both these goaltenders have been playing. Because I will say the East, oh my gosh, the East has had such a better turnout with goaltending versus the West. I don't think it has anything just too crazy. It's just, Sergei Bobrovsky and Anderson have been playing a lot better than Ottinger and Skinner. So I'm going to lean towards Hurricanes finding a way to win at home tonight. Looking from ESPN, their home record is 31-9-1. Panthers are kind of a middle of the pack average, 20-19-2 on the road. But again, we're looking at the Pacers 20-20 record on the road. Look, they just beat the Knicks. They took game 1 and 2 from the Cavs. So, like, kind of these regular season, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So, we'll just see. So, going to lean towards the Hurricanes. Enough of me yapping on that. Let's see if there's any other news. And again, with kind of like this stream, I didn't write anything down beforehand. I was like, we'll just read some articles and news stuff, some eye-popping stuff from ESPN, just because we'll do this stream real quick because the games are going to start here within the hour. Shanahan out as Leafs president after 11 seasons. That's going to go, that's going to go towards just kind of gutting the franchise. And it makes sense because we've been trolling about it and we've been talking about it after Game 7 where change needs to be made. And Shanahan was not, again, I've only jumped on the troll train for the Leafs within the last 2-3 years. At least since they beat, I think it was Tampa in the first round back in 23. So I've only been jumping on this fun, they'll never win train since then because like the magic of Game 7s versus Boston in years past, I had no clue. Like, I was too busy watching the Penguins to even be bothered to remember it. But, like, with who they beat, like, with how they beat Tampa. Yeah, I think they beat Tampa, but then they lost to the Panthers. when the Panthers went on their 8-seeded run. And then last year, Pasternak back of the goal. So, like, yeah, coming into this season, I kind of had a feeling like, okay, we might, live up to the stereotypes of, okay, they might choke this thing away. But clearly after 11 years, it wasn't working. And they've been saying that they're going to change some things up. So this makes sense. Now I think we just sit and wait on when Mitch Marner or Tavares sign something and they go away. Because I think they're going to keep Matthews. There's no way they're going to get rid of Austin Matthews. Unless Matthews is like, okay, I'm going to be a punk and I'm going to force my way out of here. There's parts of me that think he stays and rides the ship out. Like, there's better loyalty in the NHL. I will give the NHL credit on that versus the NBA where guys are just jumping team to team to team. There's a little bit more to say about the NHL where guys stay with a team. They stay with the franchise through thick and thin. So, yeah, we'll just see what Matthews does. But I think, yeah, I'd lean towards Matthews is the only one. Like, I could see Nylander, Tavares, and Marner go. I could see all three of them leaving and Matthews be the only one that's staying. But, like, they're not going to just get their team and overreact to, they're going to get rid of their president. They're going to get rid of 4 of their, core 4 guys. Just keep Matthews where it's like, good luck, dude. You'll figure it out. No, there will be something like they might get rid of guys, but it will come with something. Like, okay, we'll send Mitch Marner. We'll send him off to Tampa. Give us Jake Gensel. Give us we'll send Nylander to Vegas, but we need you to send back Jack Eichel, or we'll need you to send back Carlson or something, and then the owner of Vegas will probably answer the phone and then fart into it and be like, that's what I think about that trade, or something stupid like that. Like, go take that bullshit elsewhere. But yeah, we'll just see where the Leafs go from here. So yeah, I'll lean with the Hurricanes tonight. I'll lean with the Thunder tonight. Those are who I have winning both of these game twos. Let's keep going. Let's keep going around the leagues. The NFL home. We've heard a lot of cool stories about Jim Irsay in these past 24 hours. Like the Willy Wonka story. Everybody's talking about the Willy Wonka story. I think that's pretty cool. Manning says Irsay turned Indy into a football town. Lion star D-end Aiden Hutchinson cleared for full return. Yeah, I think I'll say this right now, and I'm going to beat this drum for the rest of the season. It'd be cool to see them split comeback player of the year. But, dude, it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson or it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. One of these two guys are going to be the comeback player of the year. Then we see Tush Push lives, proposal to ban the play, NFL fails. Tempers flare, Purdy happy with the new deal. Summing up the offseason for every team. 16 superlatives. Anything else? Nothing. Ooh. Sorry, people. Nothing too crazy right now. Okay, let's see. Okay, that'll be the NFL, and then college football. Let's go to college football. I do need to make a video on this one. I do need to make a freaking video on this one. How the college football playoff has approved new seeding model for next season, where they're going to do just straight seeding. It's not going to be what it was last season, where you have... Oh, I'm so glad they brought up a graphic. Look at this. Hell yeah, this looks amazing. This looks freaking amazing. Let's pull this up. Hold on. Let me do... Whoop. Nope, the wrong one. Hold on. Let me move this over here. Let me try it again. Whoop. Okay, let's do this again, but then hold on. Yeah, let's bring this down. Hold on. Let me do... Here, hold on. Let's move that. Let's scooch that over here. put it up in the... There we go. Well, yeah, it'll have to do for now. Yeah, it'll have to do for now. We'll put it up in that top corner. Okay, so so what's been going out right now, and a lot of people are chatting about it, is I think the biggest thing about the college football playoff last season is it was a first for a lot of things. And I don't think the committee got it wrong. I really don't. And I've had my thoughts and my opinions on players that have not players, teams that have been left in, teams that have been left out, and I've made it well known. Like, yeah, I think 2016 Penn State should have gotten in over Ohio State. Big Ten champs and head to head. That's all my case. Signed, sealed, approved. That's my biggest thing. But again, we saw what happened in that game. Ohio State went and played Clemson. They got shut out. Like, that game was whatever. Do I think it would have been a better game if Penn State was playing? Hell yes. Hell yes. And I think I would not be surprised if we had... Well, they probably would have rearranged the seedings. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Clemson-Alabama National Championship was actually a championship between... Because the 4 seed, who is the 4 seed that year? Washington. Because Washington would have been in, Ohio State would have been out. They probably would have rearranged everything. I would not be surprised. Penn State probably would have played like Washington, and then Alabama would have played Clemson or something like that. Would not have been surprised if instead of Hunter Renfrow catching it against Bama, he would have been catching it against Penn State. Saquon Barkley comes up that short from winning a national title after Penn State went on a magical run that year. But so we've had some opinions and stuff on how I feel about this bracket, how I feel about the committee, but with how what's going on now, where it's going to just be straight seeding, where after week 16, whatever the hell the week is, teams 1 through 12, where you're ranked, that's where you're ranked. You're not going to jump up a little bit because you won your conference, so you're going to be either that 12th seed, 4, 3, 2, or 1. Like, they're going to move it around. I will say though, if you win because they were talking about we shouldn't reward conference championship losers, i.e. SMU and Penn State. We shouldn't reward them, and I do get that point. But I still think the committee got it right in the way of Arizona State was playing really good football at the end of the season. They really were. And you can't punish, like, let's look at Georgia, for example. You can't punish Georgia and kick them out of being a top... They were the 2 seed, I believe. You can't throw them out of the top 4, because their quarterback, Carson Beck, got injured. That happened in the SEC championship game, like, at the end of the first half. Like, we can't, like, okay, all these, the 12 weeks, everything you did before, doesn't matter, let's throw it out the window. Now, FSU fans, I can hear you, and I can hear what you're saying. That was back when there was 4 teams, okay? This is totally different, But I think, I think if you win your conference, I think you should have an automatic bid. Period. End of story. I don't care if you're if you were Arizona State and what happened last year with Arizona State, I think them being the 4 seed, perfectly fine. Oregon just staying the number 1 overall, getting the 1 seed, perfectly fine. So I was fine with how the seedings happened. Should they have tweaked and moved Ohio State so we didn't have that Ohio State versus Oregon matchup? Maybe, because a lot of people were getting really loud about how, well, look at everything Oregon did this year, look at everything Ohio State did this year. What's their reward? They get to play each other in round 2. So, like, it kind of seemed a little, not unfair, like, unfair is not the right word, but it's like there should have maybe been a little bit of tweaking, because we know the fifth slot was saved for BYU if BYU didn't have a conference, UMass if UMass ever wants to show up and play a full season and be good, Notre Dame or UConn. Like, it was always going to be slated for an independent team. I still think it should stay that way, but it is what it is now. And so the original Now, if it went this way, because we know what happened and we know the direction it went, with this and this, I would have said, now this is from last season, okay? Notre Dame's winning this game, and then Notre Dame's winning this game again. Boise State and Indiana, I'm probably going to lean towards Indiana. No offense against Ashton Jeanty, no offense against the Boise State Broncos. We just saw how the Broncos performed in the Fiesta Bowl against Penn State. They had no answers. They couldn't make any room for Jeanty. He was getting swallowed up because they just put 7 in the box, and they're like, okay, Maddox, beat us with your arm. So I'm going to have Indiana move on, okay? So then Arizona State and Ohio State. Well, here's the thing. Ohio State would have gone up really early, and then Arizona with Cam Scattaboo would have found their way back, and then there would have been another targeting. No. I think with just how good Ohio State was, this would have been must-see TV, and I think this game would have been damn good. I do think Ohio State would have moved on and played Texas. But I'm not saying that this game is a blowout either, because this game is probably close, but then Notre Dame pulls away in the second half. This game probably was going to be a blowout. This game probably would have ended on a field goal. This would have been a tight, contested game. This game would have been absolutely snooze fest. But I think Tennessee would have gotten here. Now Tennessee against Georgia. Georgia would have made it. Ohio State against Texas. I still think Ohio State. Same outcome. So now we have Ohio State versus Georgia. And then Georgia versus Ohio State. Ohio State still makes it here. Now, Indiana versus Oregon. Oregon's right here. Now, Oregon versus Notre Dame. Look at that. Oregon still moves on. So we have Ohio State against Oregon. We have the national championship, kind of like how people were making the phrase and titling it as we're getting the national championship before the national championship, because truthfully, the Rose Bowl was the national championship. Like, it was the most sought after game. Now, the national championship last year was still, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. If Notre Dame could have stopped them, what was it? Like when they did that seam route to Smith, got some stuff together, scored any points in the third quarter, that game definitely could have been a lot closer. But, I mean, the Orange Bowl, I was leaning towards the Irish, and then the Cotton Bowl with Ohio State and Texas. Like, it was a pretty damn good game, but with how it ended, I don't know. Like, I think as close as those games were, like, we just kind of knew the Oregon-Ohio State game was huge, and it was the biggest game of the playoffs. But again, I mean, there may have been, if this was what it played out to, who knows? Maybe Boise State beats Indiana, and then we have a rematch of what week 2 was, and look at that. Jeanty's moving on. He's up here, and we're playing Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame gets I don't know. But I think if Oregon did get rolling a little bit, I think what also people don't talk about is the teams that sat, all top 4 teams lost. And then the 12 seed Clemson team, they lost to Texas. So all of the conference championship winners, they lost. I think why the top 4 lost is because they sat for a very long time. They played, the final Saturday after Thanksgiving, and then they're not playing until New Year's Day. Like, they sat out a whole month. Like, yeah, you're going to be rusty coming into the new season. Plus, that first half, just bad football. And Ohio State was ready. I really do think Ohio State was ready. I think Ohio State was better than we gave them credit for. We were really like, okay, these guys are done after they lost to Michigan, and rightfully so. Like, weren't they 28? They're like 4 touchdown favorites, and they still lost. But the playoff played out how it played out, and I don't think even with this, I still think it could have played out the same where, yeah, Ohio State still gets through Texas, still gets through Georgia. Notre Dame still finds a way to get, into this potential matchup against Oregon. So we'll just see. Like, I think what would have made last year's playoff a little more interesting, and I like how they rearranged it and stuff, is right here with, okay, we ignore this number. Clemson was ranked 16th. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to talk about... Can we still see... Oh, no. Let's switch it up a little bit. Yeah, let me move me a little bit back over here. Oh, nope. Get back here. Move me. Nope. Come back here. Quit moving, you stinker. Let's go back over here. All right. Okay. As we're looking at the top 12. Okay. They were in. Okay, yeah. Okay. Bama and Miami. Did Bama and Miami deserve to be in? I can think of 3 reasons why. No. And a lot of people were talking... Oh, wait, you can't even see that. Hold on, Whoa. Let me move this over. Where's your record? Okay. There it is. They had 3 losses. Okay. And so a lot of people were very loud on, oh, Bama still does it. They lost 3 games. They lost to Oklahoma, they lost to Vanderbilt, and they lost to... Who was that other team they lost to? Like, they got really... Oh, Tennessee. They lost to Tennessee. So if these were the only 2 games they lost, it's all right. You bounce back. You beat a ranked Missouri, ranked LSU. We'll see. We'll try. They lost to an unranked Oklahoma team, and not only that. Look at what the score was. Like, Bama did not play good at all in that game. So I think though, if we're being honest, let's go back to rankings. Okay. If you threw, because I was on the side of SMU shouldn't get in because they lost to Clemson. Because I didn't think SMU had a shot against Penn State. I really didn't. I thought the game was not going to be close. And what do you know? Defense, Penn State had a couple defensive interception pick sixes, and that game was over by halftime. I think the playoff would have definitely been a lot interesting if instead of... hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, sorry. I think if instead of SMU being that 11th seed that has to go play Penn State on the road, if you would have thrown Miami, I think we're looking at a whole different outcome of the playoffs. Like, let's look at the where's the hold on, let's fix some things here real quick. College football playoff. Because I kind of made this. Yep, everybody's talking about it. CBS a day ago. Okay. Let's look at. Okay, where are you? Let me grab you again. Here we go. Okay. Wait. Whoa, where the hell? Hold on. Oh, there you are. Okay. Slide back over here. Okay. This is how, yeah, okay, this looks right. Okay. If this is what the playoff ended up being. Okay, so let's replace SMU with Miami. We know how good Miami was. Yes, they dropped one against Kyle McCord at the very end of the season. And they also dropped one against Georgia Tech. Like, Miami wasn't perfect, but they still played good football. There were a reason why they were called the Cardiac Canes. So you throw Miami right here. Miami's beating Penn State. Miami is beating Boise State. I can't call it now, but I'm pretty damn sure Miami versus Notre Dame would have been a lot better than what this game was. And I think Miami could have given Notre Dame some trouble. And look at this. We have Miami against Ohio State. in the national championship. But again, Cam Ward, they lose last game of the season, get kicked out of the ACC championship game. SMU gets to go. I mean, it solved itself because, you know, you want to be in the ACC title game, win this game against Syracuse. It's Syracuse. Win the game against Georgia Tech. Like, play these games and win these games to get there, but they didn't, and so SMU got to go, and Clemson got to go. Plus, didn't Clemson also, the other thing that prevented, didn't Clemson lose their, let me double check. I don't think Clemson lost their last regular season game against South Carolina. Because not only the loss, but someone else lost that, like, backed them out too, if we're using basketball terminology. Because SMU was a lock to go in. Yeah, they lost to South Carolina. Yeah, and that's what was pushing the, oh shit, you can't see it. Hold on. Let me fix, whoops. We're professionals around here. Sorry. We're professionals around here. But that's what made that narrative really loud of how South Carolina should be in it. Because kind of like a couple years back when Spencer Rattler was on the team, that South Carolina team got hot towards the very end of the season. So, yes, SMU was a lock to get in, but with Clemson's loss, it like backed Miami out. Because Miami wouldn't have lost its way into the ACC championship game. Yes, okay, that's coming back to me now. But yeah, again, if you want to get to the ACC championship, you got to win these games. But that's one thing I just thought of though when we were looking at this playoff is I do think, yeah, if Miami was in it, Miami could have done some damage. I don't think. Now, if you put Bama in it, because that was the debate, do you put Bama or SMU? I threw Miami in there just for fun because they were only a 2-loss team, not a 3-loss team. I don't think Bama would have beat Penn State. I think the game would have been damn close. Like, I think Bama could have, if Bama beat Penn State, yes, they could have beat Boise State, but I do think Notre Dame would have beat Bama. But again, it's not fair to see a 3-loss Bama team get in there and like half-ass their way through. Okay, yeah, you beat Penn State by a field goal, you beat Boise State by a touchdown. Like these low scoring games. I don't know. I still though, I do think the committee made the right choice for who they put in the 12th team, because you know you throw. You extend this thing to 16. What other numerical? 24. Like, the outcome and the ending still would have been the way it was. It really would have. Like, the final 3 teams standing probably would have been Ohio State, Oregon, and Notre Dame. It would have been like that. So, that's my thoughts on that. Okay, let's double check one more time. Let's sweep through ESPN. Anything else? College football playoff approves new seeding model next season. Nuggets make Edelman head coach, removing interim tag. All right. No crazy reaction to that. Like, it's kind of, I mean, we're gonna see, and we're gonna sit in here and wait on what the news is for the Spurs. I think we'll have a bigger reaction to who the Spurs pick as their head coach. Like, I'm leaning towards Coach Malone being the head coach, but that's just because I think there's parts of me that think the Spurs are going to go get Giannis in a trade. And I think we'll have a bigger news and bigger reaction to the Spurs head coaching gig, just because this is the not oppressor. What's the when you're the next in line? What's that word I'm looking for? It starts with us. Second I end this stream, I'm gonna figure out what that word was. The super what's that word? Successor. The successor to Greg Popovich. So yeah, I think that'll have a big reaction because Coach Pop with the Spurs, he was really good, put them on the map. So all right, let's see, anything else? Nope, nothing too crazy. Phillies beat the Rockies 2-0, so the Rockies still under 10 wins. They have not reached double-digit wins yet. They're still sitting at 8-42. Okay, let's go figure out when the Rockets will win. Rockies. They have lost a shitload of games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They have lost 17 out of their last 19. Yikes. And they're going to win. They're going to win 10 games. Now, I think they get 10. I think they can get to 10 wins before June 1st. Why? Because they're playing the Yanks, the Cubs, and the Mets. They're going to, at 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. The next 9 games, I can see them getting 3 wins. Why? Because the Mets are the best, the Yankees are the best, and the Cubs are the best. And of course, with parity, and all the pro sports, why wouldn't you have the Rockies beating the Yanks to get win 9, beating the Cubs to get win 10, and then beating the Mets to get win 11? And if not, then after the first series with the Mets, they'll play the Marlins and they'll meet up with the Mets again. So I could see them having 11 wins by June 8th. But we'll just have to see. It was a tough break, real tough break right now. They're not doing good at all. They went 0-1, and then they went 1-1, and then they went 1-7 before they got their second win, and then they went 2-9 before they got their third win, and then they went 3-17 before they got their fourth win. So now they're 4-17, and then they went 4-25 before they got their fifth win. But then they got back-to-back wins, so they went 5-25 and then 6-25. And then from 6-25, they went all the way to 6-33 before they got their seventh win. So they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row again. Then they went 1, 2, 3, 4 more losses. Then they got their eighth win, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in a row. The dam's gonna break. Here comes the water. They are gonna beat the Yankees. They're gonna beat the Yankees tomorrow. They just gotta. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stream. We'll end it here because we are 20 minutes away from puck drop between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. Again, I'm rolling with the Hurricanes. Be sure to hit that like button so you know where to come back to. We will give a post-game reaction. So people on the short side, I thank you guys for being here. We're going to do a hard out.